Hello, it's Miss Devlin again. We're starting the chapter Awards. I liked Mr. Tuchman's speech, but I have to admit I kind of zoned out a little during some of the other speeches. I tuned in again as Ms. Rubin started reading off the names of kids who'd made the high honour roll because we were supposed to stand up when our names were called. So I waited and listened for my name as she went down the list alphabetically. Reed Kingsley, Mayor Markowitz, August Pullman. I stood up. Then when she finished reading off names, she asked us all to face the audience and take a bow, and everyone applauded. I had no idea where in that huge crowd my parents might be sitting. All I could see were the flashes of light from people taking photos and parents waving at kids. I pictured Mum waving at me from somewhere, even though I couldn't see her. Then Mr. Tuchman came back to the podium to present the medals for academic excellence, and Jack was right. Khamina Chin won the gold medal for overall academic excellence in 5th grade. Charlotte won the silver. Charlotte also won a gold medal for music. And Amos won the medal for overall excellence in sports, which I was really happy about, because ever since the nature retreat, I considered Amos to be like one of my best friends in school. But I was really thrilled when Mr. Tuchman called out Summer's name for the gold medal in creative writing. I saw Summer put her hand over her mouth when her name was called, and when she walked up onto the stage I yelled, "Woo, Summer!" as loudly as I could, though I don't think she heard me. After the last name was called, all the kids who'd just won awards stood next to each other on stage, and Mr. Tuchman said to the audience, "Ladies and gentlemen, I am very honoured to present to you this year's Beecher Prep School Scholastic Achievers. Congratulations to all of you." I applauded as the kids on stage bowed. I was so happy for Summer. "The final award this morning," Mr. Tuchman said, after the kids on stage had returned to their seats, "is the Henry Ward Beecher Medal to honour students who've been notable or exemplary in certain areas throughout the school year. Typically, this medal has been our way of acknowledging volunteerism or service to the school." I immediately figured Charlotte would get this medal because she organised the coat drive this year, so I kind of zoned out a bit again. I looked at my watch. 10:56. I was getting hungry for lunch already. Henry Ward Beecher was, of course, the 19th century abolitionist and fiery sermonizer for human rights, after whom this school was named, Mr. Tuchman was saying when I started paying attention again. While reading up on his life in preparation for this award, I came upon a passage that he wrote that seemed particularly consistent with the themes I touched on earlier. Themes I've been ruminating upon all year long, not just the nature of kindness, but the nature of one's kindness, the power of one's friendship, the test of one's character, the strength of one's courage. And here the weirdest thing happened. Mr. Tuchman's voice cracked a little bit, like he got choked up. He actually cleared his throat and took a big sip of water. I started paying attention, for real now, to what he was saying. "The strength of one's courage," he repeated quietly, nodding and smiling. He held up his right hand like he was counting off. Courage, kindness, friendship, character. These are the qualities that define us as human beings and propel us, on occasion, to greatness. And that is what the Henry Ward Beecher Medal is about, recognising greatness. But how do we do that? How do we measure something like greatness? And again, there is no yardstick for that kind of thing. How do we even define it? Well, Beecher actually had an answer for that. He put his reading glasses on again, leafed through a book and started to read. "Greatness," wrote Beecher, "lies not in being strong, but in the right using of strength. He is the greatest whose strength carries up the most hearts." And again, out of the blue, he got all choked up. He put his 2 index fingers over his mouth for a second before continuing. "He is the greatest," he finally continued, "whose strength carries up the most hearts by the attraction of his own." Without further ado, this year I am very proud to award the Henry Ward Beecher Medal to the student whose quiet strength has carried up the most hearts. So will August Pullman please come up here to receive this award. Floating is the next chapter. People started applauding before Mr. Tushman's words actually registered in my brain. I heard Maya, who was next to me, give a happy little scream when she heard my name, and Miles, who was on the other side of me, patted my back. "Stand up, get up," said the kids all around me, and I felt lots of hands pushing me upwards out of my seat, guiding me to the edge of the row, patting my back, high-fiving me. "Way to go, Augie! Nice going, Augie!" I even started hearing my name being chanted, "Augie, Augie, Augie." I looked back and saw Jack leading the chant, fist in the air, smiling and signalling for me to keep going, and Amos shouting through his hands, "Woohoo, little dude!" And then I saw Summer smiling as I walked past her row, and when she saw me look at her, she gave me a secret little thumbs up and mouthed the silent, "Cool beans," to me. I laughed and shook my head like I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. I think I was smiling. Maybe I was beaming. I don't know. As I walked up the aisle towards the stage, all I saw was a blur of happy, bright faces looking at me and hands clapping for me. I heard people yelling things at me. "You deserve it, Augie. Go for you, Augie." I saw all my teachers in the aisle seats, Mr. Brown, Ms. Petosa, Mr. Roche, and Mrs. Atanby, and Nurse Molly, and all the others, and they were cheering for me, "Woohoo!" and whistling. I felt like I was floating. It was so weird. Like the sun was shining full force on my face and the wind was blowing. As I got closer to the stage, I saw Ms. Rubin waving at me in the front row. And then next to her was Mrs. G, who was crying hysterically, happy crying, and smiling and clapping the whole time. And as I walked up the steps to the stage, the most amazing thing happened. Everyone started standing up. Not just the front rows, but the whole audience suddenly got on their feet, whooping and hollering and clapping like crazy. It was a standing ovation. For me. I walked across the stage to Mr. Tushman, who shook my hand with both his hands and whispered in my ear, "Well done, Augie." Then he placed the gold medal over my head, just like they do in the Olympics, and had me turn to face the audience. It felt like I was watching myself in a movie almost, like I was someone else. It was like that last scene in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, when Luke Skywalker, Han Solo and Chewbacca are all being applauded for destroying the Death Star. I could almost hear the Star Wars theme music playing in my head as I stood on that stage. I wasn't even sure why I was getting this medal, really. No, that's not true. I knew why. It's like people you see sometimes and you can't imagine what it would be like to be that person, whether it's somebody in a wheelchair or somebody who can't talk. Only I know that I'm that person to other people, maybe to every single person in the whole auditorium. To me, though, I'm just me, an ordinary kid. But hey, if they want to give me a medal for being me, that's okay, I'll take it. I didn't destroy a Death Star or anything like that, but I did just get through 5th grade, and that's not easy, even if you're not me. Next chapter, pictures. Afterwards, there was a reception for the 5th and 6th graders under a huge white tent in the back of the school. All the kids found their parents, and I didn't mind at all when Mum and Dad hugged me like crazy, or when Via wrapped her arms round me and swung me left and right about 20 times. Then Papa and Tata hugged me, and Aunt Kate and Uncle Poe and Uncle Ben, and everyone kind of teary-eyed and wet-cheeked. But Miranda was the funniest. She was crying more than anyone, and squeezed me so tight that Via had to practically pry her off me, which made them both laugh. Everyone started taking pictures of me and pulling out their flips, and then Dad got me and Summer and Jack together for a group shot. We put our arms round each other's shoulders, and for the first time I can remember, I wasn't even thinking about my face. I was just smiling, a big, fat, happy smile for all the different camera clickers away at me. Flash, flash, click, click, smiling away as Jack's parents and Summer's mum started clicking. Then Reed and Maya came over. Flash, flash, click, click. And then Charlotte came over and asked if she could take a picture with us. And we were like, sure, of course. And then Charlotte's parents were snapping away at our little group along with everyone else's parents. And the next thing I knew, the 2 Maxes had come over, and Henry and Miles and Savannah, and then Amos came over, and Hermina, and we were all in this big, tight huddle as parents clicked away, like we were on a red carpet somewhere. Luca, Isaiah, Nino, Pablo, Tristan, Ellie, I lost track of who else came over. Everybody, practically, all I knew for sure is that we were all laughing and squeezing in tight against each other, and no one seemed to care if it was my face that was next to theirs or not. In fact, I don't mean to brag here, but it kind of felt like everyone wanted to get close to me. Next chapter, the walk home. We walked to our house for cake and ice cream after the reception. Jack and his parents and his little brother, Jamie, Summer and her mother, Uncle Poe and Aunt Kate, Uncle Ben, Tata and Papa, Justin and Via and Miranda, Mum and Dad. It was one of those great June days where the sky is completely blue and the sun is shining, but it isn't so hot that you wish you were on a beach instead. It was just the perfect day. Everyone was happy, and I still felt like I was floating. The Star Wars hero music was still in my head. I walked with Summer and Jack, and we just couldn't stop cracking up. Everything made us laugh. We were in that giggly kind of mood where all someone has to do is look at you and you start laughing. I heard Dad's voice up ahead and looked up. He was telling everyone a funny story as they walked down Amesworth Avenue. The group of grown-ups were all laughing too, and it was like Mum always said Dad could be a comedian. I noticed Mum wasn't walking with the group of grown-ups, so I looked behind me. She was hanging back a bit, smiling to herself like she was thinking of something sweet. She seemed happy. I took a few steps back and surprised her by hugging her as she walked. She put her arms round me and gave me a squeeze. "Thank you for making me go to school," I said quietly. She hugged me close and leaned down and kissed the top of my head. "Thank you, Augie," she answered softly. "For what?" "For everything you've given us," she said. "For coming into our lives and for being you." She bent down and whispered in my ear, "You really are a wonder, Augie. You are a wonder."